Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming for this RCEA lecture on the Mid-Cornwall Metro. Next slide, please. Right, to introduce myself, I'm Jen-Lee Chu. I'm the chair of the Railway Civil and Association, and in my day job, I work as a project design engineer within Morgan Sindall Engineering Solutions, where I'm a temporary works design engineer. And I'm also the engineering manager for the Colindale Station redevelopment project for Morgan Sindall, which is a rebuild of a tube station for the Northern Line in Northwest London. For your information, this event is being recorded and it will be made available on the RCEA YouTube channel after this event. I will download the recording and put it on our YouTube channel, and I will make the link available to all attendees and everyone who has signed up. Next slide, please. So yes, as mentioned, this is the Mid-Cornwall Metro project presented by Adrian Roper and Alexander Maltby, and it's a £56.8 million project to deliver hourly coast-to-coast railway services between Newquay, Par, St Austell, Truro, and Penryn and Falmouth, and it will allow you to understand what the project is, its aims, benefits, challenges of delivery, and scheme details. If you don't already know about the RCEA, we were founded in 1921 and we exist to encourage the exchange of knowledge and information and experience between railway civil engineers. In 1997, we became part of the Institution of Civil Engineers as a specialist knowledge society, and we work closely with other disciplines throughout the railway industry. This is now out of date, but actually now our membership is close to 500 people since last month, which I'm very proud of. And then normally we do a series of evening seminars like this one and lunch and learn events on instead of in person or online. So far this year, we've been focusing on evening seminars, which are normally on the last Thursday of every month, except for July and August. Next slide, please. And keep clicking next until it's all come through. So you can find us by Googling RCEA or Railway Civil Engineers Association, by going on our website, by going on the IC website and clicking on About Us and under Specialist Knowledge Societies. And next slide, please. If you're interested in joining as a member and not already a member, these are our fees and our membership criteria for you to join as ordinary, young professional, retired, or student members. We've kept our fees quite low, and we are committed to keeping the fees unchanged for the year of 2027. And finally, if you fancy getting involved, you can join our next committee meeting, which is on Thursday, the 23rd of April at 11:30 a.m., which will be held in person and online at the ICE headquarters in 1 Great George Street in London. And this is before our annual conference and before our annual general meeting. So if you are interested in joining in, please email rcea@ice.org.uk for more details, and we would love to have you attend. And to go through on our future events list for before the summer recess, as mentioned, the 23rd of April is our annual conference, where we will have global insights of our major transport projects presented by speakers from Norway, Denmark, and the head of engineering for HS2 for Strabag. At the end of May, we are now arranging a talk on temporary works for 50 Fenchurch Street, in which the developer had to build a brand new building around and retain a medieval stone tower and support it on temporary props. This is being arranged. We are probably going to do it somewhere in the speakers' offices in the City of London, but we will send you more details as we know. And then at the end of June, we will have a presentation on the Manchester Greek Street Overbridge project, and it will be held in Manchester, and we will confirm the location when we closer to the time. And without further ado, I'll hand over to our speakers.
Great. Thanks, Jan. So do a quick introductions if I start myself. So yeah, my name's Adrian Roper. I work for Cornwall Council. I'm a principal transport officer, and essentially my role within the whole of Mid-Cornwall Metro is to be the client for our active travel work, so the walking and cycling elements and public rail elements around some of the stations.
And
Alexander,
thank you, Adrian. And I'm Alexander Morby. I'm the Network Rail sponsor for the railway scheme for Mid-Cornwall Metro. So basically, as a sponsor, I'm accountable for the delivery of the project within Network Rail, and also act as the client on behalf of Cornwall Council, as they are our overall client for delivering this.
So yeah, to give you a bit of an idea of what we're going to run through, I'll take you a bit more of an overview of Mid-Cornwall Metro generally. Alexander will talk to you about the rail side of things, and then we'll go into our little specialisms. Someone is around the active travel, as I say, and Alexander around the rail engineering. And then we'll just go through a little bit of the sort of challenges that we've faced, and then finish up with a Q&A session at the end. So just a bit of an overview. I won't go through sort of in great detail, but as Alexander says, this is a joint venture between Cornwall Council, Great Western Railway, and Network Rail, with Cornwall Council being the lead partner. It's all around cross-Cornwall connectivity and increasing capacity on the rail network around the sort of, as you might gather, from mid-Cornwall, central parts of Cornwall. The overall aim being an hourly direct service between Newquay, Parr, St Austell, Truro and Falmouth, and increasing sort of upcountry, as we might say down here, although I'm an incomer to Cornwall. So increasing sort of frequency of services that can come into Newquay from upcountry as well. Vast majority of the funding has come from the Levelling Up Fund, although we don't call it that anymore. And that was nearly £50 million, which was confirmed back in spring of 2024. And match funding came from Cornwall Council. Won't bore you with the detail of that, but £6.8 million worth of match funding has come from Cornwall Council and other smaller funds. And essentially, a lot of the benefit is sort of focused on Newquay, I think it's fair to say. So Newquay is the largest urban area in Cornwall. It's also getting bigger. There's a large development called Nanslen on the edge of Newquay, which I think might be almost doubling the size of Newquay. But despite its size, it has the poorest transport links and the worst train connectivity in Cornwall. Sort of back in the 1960s and 80s, a major rationalisation of the services. So yeah, that's created a problem. And those of you who have visited Newquay will have seen that the population swells from just over 20,000. Well, that's increasing to over 100,000 people during the summer at any one time. So, a big change in population in the summer. In terms of the sort of things that I'm involved with, as well as the rail side of things, we're doing first and last mile access, we call them, which is essentially improving walking and cycling access to the station, as well as the environment around the station. So the public realm works, which I'll go into a bit more detail on. And also a sort of less talked about element of the programme is ticket digitalisation. So we have tap on, tap off technology, which has been introduced now throughout the mid-Cornwall routes.
And what this slide sort of sets out is really the overview of the rail scope for Mid-Cornwall Metro. So we're very fortunate that to deliver the enhancements to the rail service across Mid-Cornwall, we only need to tackle the Parr to Newquay branch line. There was a re-signalling work done back in sort of the 2022-2023 time, where sort of there was a lot of old semaphore signals were renewed and replaced between Lostwithiel and Truro, and that was a bit of a precursor to this. So we haven't had to do any work, luckily, between Parr and Falmouth. All our work focuses between. We haven't had to do any work between Parr and Falmouth. We just focus our work between Parr and Newquay. So what that really entails is we've built a second platform in Newquay, and that allows long distance and local trains to use the line between Parr and Newquay for the first time in parallel since the 1980s. Basically, what happens today is when you want to send a London to Newquay service, when you want to send a train from London to Newquay during the summer, the local train between Parr and Newquay gets cancelled, and then the places that you see there, such as Bugle and Roche, don't get served, especially on a summer Saturday. So what we're doing is allowing that to happen with the new platform at Newquay. We're providing a new passing loop at Tregoss Moor, And that's roughly halfway between Par and Newquay that allows that 1 train per hour frequency on the branch line. For those of you who know the railways down in Cornwall, there used to be a passing loop there, a couple of sort of 100 meters to the west of where we've actually installed it, formerly known as St Denis Junction. So it's that's roughly, as I said, halfway between Par and Newquay. And then what we've also done as part of that is obviously new signalling. We've done level crossing enhancements as well, and we'll go through in detail throughout this presentation too on that. And we're also looking to implement, with the help of GWR, later trains to Newquay and improve connectivity and improve journey times, therefore, between Newquay and the rest of the UK, really, like London and London, Exeter, Birmingham. Next slide, please. So the key thing really, when we talk about outputs and how we're actually going to sort of drive economic growth, how we're actually going to get more people onto the rail network, it's quite clear it's about improving the timetable. So what you see there is TPH is trains per hour. So the Par to Newquay branch line currently has 1 train every 2 hours. That's 8 trains a day in each direction. The train service offering between Par and Truro is 2 trains per hour, and they are usually your Penzance to Plymouth or your Penzance to London Paddington services. And then you also have currently 2 trains per hour between Truro and Falmouth. So what we're looking to do as part of this is, as part of the first stage, is obviously we're delivering the infrastructure. So the infrastructure on the branch line has been commissioned. And what I say by that is that we've got a working passing loop between Par and Newquay. We've got a new platform at Newquay as well. We do still have some work to be done, minor work as part of that signalling, but we can use that now, which is good. And then working with GWR, we'll be implementing that 1 train per hour between Newquay and Par in this spring, basically. So that will increase the frequency of service between Par and Newquay from 8 trains per day in each direction to about 15 trains per day in each direction, which is fantastic. First train leaving Newquay about 7 a.m. and last train arriving at Newquay about 9:30 in the evening. And then come this winter and spring, we'll be sending that train all the way to Falmouth. So that will create 3 trains per hour between Par and Truro. That basically forms your metro, that turn up and go system, and then that'll go to Falmouth. And basically currently you have 2 trains per hour between Falmouth and Truro as a shuttle service, and we're just utilizing one of those trains every hour that will go on towards Newquay, so it sort of filters through basically. And then during the summer months we'll have direct London to Newquay trains working in parallel, weaved into the 1 train per hour between Par and Newquay. So we've got it's a real big step up for the Newquay branch line, for people of Newquay, for people in the China Clay areas, and also people wanting to access jobs, education and healthcare sort of in the mid-Cornwall Metro, like St Austell, Truro, and getting down to Falmouth. You've got about a third of the population of Cornwall within 2 miles of a railway station in this area. So anything we can do to improve that is absolutely fantastic, to be honest. And because of the infrastructure that we're actually implementing here, it future-proofs the branch line as well for future growth. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so this is back to my side of things. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the aspects of the Mid-Cornwall Metro scheme is to enable people to walk and cycle more to the train stations, but also sort of more to take journeys more locally to other destinations around the stations. And the works that we've been focusing on is primarily around Newquay Station, but we've also got some active travel works around Penryn, which is a village which is kind of attached to Falmouth. So I'll just take you through a little bit of what we call first and last mile improvements that we've got. So picture on the right there is just outside of on the edge of Newquay Harbour, on the Barrow Bikes. There's a public electric bike car scheme we have down in Cornwall. And for those of you who've partied in Cornwall or just in Newquay, sorry, you might recognise this. So this is Narrowcliff, which is the road heading east from Newquay Station out towards much of the population of Newquay and on to this development called Nansledden, which is, really, really massive development. And essentially what we've done here on this, the main bit you can see here is what's going to be a shared use path. So it will be, sorry, it is a shared use path at the moment, but when we finish the works, it will be a two-way cycleway. And essentially we've taken space out of the carriageway, which is wide enough to do that, narrowed the lanes for motor vehicles, introduced this so that people will be able to cycle both ways on this, and on the other side of the wallway you can see that lady walking along. That's where people will walk, and that'll be the footway there. And essentially this route here then links in with, you can see in the distance there, a green space area called Barrow Fields, and that's indeed a Iron Age barrow that people walk over there. There's a path that leads out to Nansledden and beyond, and then there's also a path that sort of links into the town centre and Fistral Beach and so on. So whilst it's quite a big missing link, this is a really significant route into the station, but also for Newquay more widely. And I won't go into all the detail on this slide here, but I'm just using my cursor. This to give people their bearings. This is Newquay Station itself, and essentially to the north of Newquay Station, you can see the green line there. We're carrying on the kind of same principle really. So we'll be shifting the carriageway to the south, putting in a two-way cycleway to the north, which links into the tram track, which is a shared use path into the centre of Newquay. Improving crossings at two locations, improving the very busy bus stop outside of the Great Western Hotel, and doing a lot of public realm works on the sort of what's generously called a plaza area outside Newquay Station. It's a bit run down, so we're trying to improve that as well. There is loss of parking here, but we've done some works on a car park down here to the south of the image to enable there to be increased parking actually locally, which is something that residents called out for. So what might first appear to be a sort of an attempt to encourage people to cycle more to the station is actually a much more complex scheme than that, looking at car parking and then public realm as well. So I'll take you on to some of those. And this is an image of what the scheme would look like after we've delivered it. So the image on the left there you might see is where we're at the moment. So yeah, sort of a car dominated space, and just out the picture here there's all the car parking there, so it's quite an unpleasant space, really rather tatty as well. So on the right here you can see that first of all the sun shines when we do the delivery, but also we've got a shared use path coming here into the station, the bi-directional cycle lane on the other side, and improved crossings, and essentially more space for people as well. So that's kind of what we're trying to achieve in terms of the route. And also sort of one of the key features is about public realm. So again, those of you who know Newquay Station, it's quite unpleasant sort of area, quite honestly, before these works are going on. So not that pleasant to visit during the day, somewhere quite threatening at night. So we're trying to improve the public realm there. So this is a mural that we've commissioned, which goes on one of the walls and the entrance into the station. So it's made a really, really big difference to the feel of the place. So we're really excited about that. And this is a picture of what the sort of plaza area outside the station would look like. So quite significantly different to how it is at the moment. And this space in the back here is where that mural was. So as well as a route to and from the station, we're very much about improving the space that people spend time in, and this space here will become an event space in the future. So not just facilitating journeys to and from a station, but sort of trying to make the place a better place that people want to spend time in, spend their money in, visit the shops in, and so on. So yeah, very much a place shaping exercise as well as a improving access to the station sort of scheme. So I'll pass back over to Alexander now for talk about the rail scope.
Brilliant, thank you, Adrian. So what you can see there is just a really nice picture. The sun is setting, it's over Tregoss Moor and the new passing loop. So that was the first time that we had two trains side by side at Tregoss Moor. So we've been able to, well, a local rail enthusiast managed to take this photograph, and credit to them. It's a great picture, and definitely one that we love to see. So as I said previously, all the work that we've had to do is confined to the Newquay branch line between Par and Newquay. So everything you'll see here in detail is regarding that. So just a bit of context. The Newquay railway station grew over years and years and years until sort of the 1980s, where you had it grew to a 3-platform railway station. It had carriage sidings. It had platforms that are long enough to accommodate long distance holiday maker traffic trains from the likes of London, from the Midlands, from up north, basically, because obviously Newquay is a holiday destination. And over years, since the 1980s, it was rationalised to a single platform at the end of what was pretty much a really long siding of about 15 miles from Goombarrow signal box, and that platform is long enough to accommodate your 10-car intercity express trains, and those are the sort of GWR intercity trains that operate between London and the Western Wales now. So we've got that existing platform. But what we needed to do, as I said, we needed a new platform to allow for the long distance and local trains to run in parallel, basically, during a summer Saturday when Newquay is receiving those long distance London trains. So we worked with GWR to understand sort of what length of platform they would need for a local train. So the reinstated platform that we put in there is platform 2. And that will have a usable length, well, it has a usable length, sorry, of 85 metres. And the reason why we've chosen 85 metres is because of the length of trains that operate on the Newquay branch line currently, and also it future-proofs the branch line for some future growth, and also for the new trains that quite possibly GWR could bring onto the branch line as well in the couple of years once their current rolling stock is replaced, because that current rolling stock is about 40 years old now. So inevitably over the next sort of 5-10 years that will be replaced, and we don't really want to have to rebuild the platform once that is done. For this new platform, it's reinstated. It's an old existing platform. Anyone who's been to Newquay station would have seen it sort of dilapidated, and it's on the top of an embankment that is about 2 stories high. So we've had to put in a large retaining wall, which I'll come on to on another slide, because that has some pictures of it, and that's one of our largest risks, which I'll come into. So we had to provide a new retaining wall. And then obviously we want to make this station as accessible as possible. So you've got new wayfinding tactiles, customer information screens, public address, a waiting shelter and seats, and all the compliant signage as well on platform 2 to make it compliant. One thing that we haven't been able to do is bring the platform 1 up to fully compliance, if that makes sense. So we'd have to rebuild the whole of platform 1. So what we managed to do while working with GWR and the DFT is we provided sufficient wayfinding tactile on platform 1. You can hear the PA from platform 2, basically on platform 1. We've got customer information screens on the concourse as well to mitigate against that. But also, crucially, what we're doing is every train now that is a local service will operate from platform 2, unless there's an issue with signalling system, and also there may be a couple of trains on a Sunday that operate out of platform 1 just to keep the switch, which is basically what is needed to enter and exit the 2 platforms, basically. So we're trying to, as I said, make it as accessible as possible from that perspective. Next slide, please. And this just shows some photographs really of where we've been and where we've got to. So on the photograph on the left shows platform 2 prior to reconstruction. It's next to the car park at Newquay, and it had those palm trees which were planted. They weren't terribly looked after at that time, and I'll show you where they went to on a follow-up slide. So watch this space. So we had that platform. We basically sort of reconstructed that into what you see on the right hand side. So a really nice new compliant platform. We've got new continuously welded track into the new platform as well. And we've also been able to combine assets. So what I mean by that is in the rail industry, usually we have to assign a specific post for PA system and then specific post for lighting, for example. But we're working with our route asset managers, we've been able to combine the two, which is really great. So it removes station furniture, it removes clutter, and again, it makes it a better environment from an accessibility perspective as well. Next slide, please. And this is the retaining wall. So the retaining wall it doesn't look much when you actually see it from the ground, but it was one of our biggest risks for this project. So when we started having some surveys work done on the existing retaining wall that was built in probably around the 1920s, when the station was enlarged to what you saw sort of towards the 1960s, it's shown that the sea air had really eaten away at the concrete. And also, once we removed a lot of vegetation as well, there was a lot of just sort of earth that was exposed. So we really needed to put something that was sufficient enough to obviously withstand the pressures of the new platform and trains operating at that level. So we built this new retaining wall. It's got about 12 to 13 king posts, if I recall, and also the foundations there are about 5 to 6 meters deep. It was a really big piece of work, biggest risk at the time when we were going through this in 2024, but a really good bit of work and was a success when it was delivered. So no, that was a really good, as I said, big bit of work. And as Adrian mentioned to me just before the call, actually, that where you see the sort of compounds and also the bit of tarmac, that's the new car park, or the repaved car park now. So that's all like new tarmac, new lines and everything like that, which is fantastic. Next slide, please. And as part of this, and as Adrian alluded to earlier, that sort of where Newquay Station is, it sort of attracts a bit of antisocial behaviour, and it's sort of hidden away, and it's not really the best aesthetically pleasing station that you come across. So I won't talk about the artwork any more than what Adrian has done, but fresh lick of paint obviously really improves the aesthetics and also the feel of the area. We've also worked with the Devon and Cornwall Rail Partnership alongside obviously GWR and with the support GWR, and they've got in Newquay in Bloom to look after and to grow some nice plants on the existing platform. So that looks just really nice, brightens up the area. We've had, as I said, fresh lick of paint around the station, and we've also cleaned the canopy at Newquay Station. So this canopy was built in about 2012, and it was self-cleaning canopy. And obviously, you know, with a lot of self-cleaning stuff, it doesn't usually self-clean that very well. So we've got jet washers in, we've cleaned it, and it looks much brighter than it did beforehand. So it's just, again, bringing it back up to what we want it to be. We want it to be a welcoming station for when people arrive during the summer, during if they're returning from long journeys, etc., or they're waiting for the trains to wherever they're going as well. Next slide, please. And these are the palm trees. So near Newquay, about 2 miles away, there's a little valley called Lapper Valley, and it's basically known as the world of miniature trains. And they have miniature trains that go around this small valley. They have soft play, they have crazy golf, they have walks. It's a lovely place. Obviously, I swear I'm not been paid by them to advertise for them at all. But what we did, we gave them a phone and we said, look, we've got these palm trees that need relocating. We don't just want to bin them. Would you like some? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. So they planted some at the Lapper Valley there. So you can see the gentleman there who is, I believe, the operations manager at the Lapper Valley, standing next to some of those palm trees. Palm trees are notorious for not actually being transported very well. So we did lose a couple, unfortunately, during transportation. And some of them did also go to Newquay Zoo and were fed to the monkeys. So sort of going full circle, really, in that respect. But no, really, really nice to be able to donate locally. In terms of signalling, so the Newquay branch line is about 20 miles long, and as part of that, we've installed new signalling between Goombarrow Junction and Newquay, and that's about 15 miles in length. We've installed 11 modular signals, 4 at Newquay, 6 at Tregoss Moor, and also we've converted 1 semaphore signal in the St Blaise area, and St Blaise is next to Par. And there's been some retention of semaphore signals as well at Goombarrow as part of this, which is really good. We've installed a new passing loop, as I've talked about, at Tregoss Moor. This is roughly 400 metres in length, and the reason why it's 400 metres in length is to allow for 2 10-car intercity express trains to pass one another. And that's so usually that wouldn't really happen in a timetable, but we have a music festival called Boardmasters that happens at Newquay every August. So what GWR sometimes do is that they'll send trains that usually go to Penzance, they'll send them on to Newquay because there's a lot of festival goers that obviously go there. So that's the time when we may get a couple of intercity express trains passing one another as well. There was a token system that was in place on the Newquay branch line, and that's been replaced by a modern interlocking system with axle counters. So before, with the token system, the driver would pick the token up at Goombarrow, and then he would disappear into a bit of a black hole until he reached Newquay. So now with the axle counter system, we know exactly where the train is in any time, anywhere on the branch line, which obviously is much better from a safety perspective. And our signalling system is still controlled by Goombarrow signal box. So a lot of signalling, as a lot of you probably know, is in the UK has been relocated to these bigger signalling centres. So in Cornwall, a lot of our signalling is being relocated. The controls have been relocated up to Exeter. And the reason why we've kept Goombarrow signal box open is because it was basically a cost incentive, and also it kept jobs down here as well, which is really, really good. So it's really good to still have Goombarrow signal box at this location. I've got some on this branch line, so we've got some photographs for that later on as well. And we've also provided alterations and closures to 10 level crossings, level private and footpath crossings. And we've also been able to raise the line speed over Train Creek and Chapel level crossings. So these are 2 road crossings near the Newquay area. They've been what they call downgraded. So cars don't operate over them anymore. We've stopped traffic, and it's just basically bridleways. And we've been able to do that because we've built a new bridge as part of a previous project as a diversionary route. So it's been really, really good to sort of work on these level crossings and make it much safer for people to sort of cross, and also safer for train drivers and passengers as well. Next slide, please. So this is Goombarrow signal box. So on the left photograph, you can see the original sort of the panel at the top, which just basically outlines sort of Goombarrow Junction itself and the semaphore signals too. And then on the right, you see still the levers, and also you've got the panel as well that shows the axle counters and where the train will be in section 2. So we've worked closely with our operating colleagues in signalling to understand the ergonomics and the workload of our signallers as well, and making sure what we do here isn't going to distract from their workload basically. But yeah, it's as I said, it's a really great place to visit. It's really good to see, and to retain a signal box is fantastic, especially as a lot of them are closing. And as you can see on the right hand side, you can see the train pulling up to what was the token handover at that time. Now trains obviously don't have to hand tokens over now, which is really, really good. For those of you that don't know what a token is, it's basically like a key, and you take that key with you on the train to the end of the branch line at Newquay, and then you put it in the box and you grab another key and bring it back, and that key basically stops any other train from operating on the branch line at one time. Sorry, Adrian. Next slide, please. And this is the passing loop at Goss Moor. So there's not really much to see here. Obviously, you've got the signals, you've got the new track, and you've got the ballast. I think it's really good here to talk about the challenges we faced. So Goss Moor is a triple SI site, so a site of a scientific site of special interest. So we in the southwest we have a challenge of dormice, of newts, of reptiles, and we need to make sure that when we're delivering a project we get approval, we get a license to do it meeting specific conditions, and also we can only do works in specific window, like breeding windows basically, that don't impact the reptiles and the dormice. So we actually had to do a lot of relocating of reptiles, and these are sort of rare species. But when we actually got on site, there was loads. There was absolutely loads. So we had to provide a lot more sort of person power to actually relocate the reptiles away from the railway before we did the work. And the way we did that, we would catch them in small boxes, and then we would move them across further away from the railway and across a fence that we had erected, and then they wouldn't come back close to the railway line basically. So it was a huge amount of work just to do that. And then also alongside that, we had a water course that was very close. It's very boggy in that area anyway, but there was a culvert and water course, so we had to do a bit of an extra bit of sort of retaining work there, just to give extra stability really for the ground at Goss Moor. Next slide, please. And this moves on really to level crossings. So if I focus on the table to the right, so the output, the first 5 that are referenced there, we have converted to what they call obstacle miniature stoplights or miniature stoplights, and they're basically like traffic light systems really, and they show like green when it's okay to cross, and red when a train is coming, and you'll get a little audible noise as well to tell you when a train is coming, and that red light and the audible noise comes on about 30 seconds before a train actually arrives at those crossings. So we've been able to do that at a couple of different crossings. So Train Creek and Chapel, they're the level crossings, they're the road crossings, and you see a photograph of Train Creek on the left hand side. What's really nice is that since we've done that, the local communities say they can hear the bird song again, and they can sit out in their garden. There's no cars going up and down the roads, because these little byways were rat runs. They're a rat run to a local supermarket, and there was also, and then the other one was a rat run to a local primary school, and it would be like these narrow roads that would just get loads and loads of traffic, especially during the summer. And at Train Creek there's a holiday park as well there, so it was like really crazy going through there. So it's made their life better. And we've also provided miniature stoplights at what they call user work crossings, the UWCs, and these are private crossings where we have an agreement with a landowner that allows them to walk over our railway line basically, from their house, from their land. So we've been able to do that, make lines safer. At Roche, so Roche railway station, the only way to access the station is by level crossing. So we looked at all different ways to provide miniature stoplights and to provide sort of what safety mitigations we could put there, but there was nothing suitable at this current time that we could put there. So what we've done is reduce the line speed at the location from 40 miles per hour to 20 miles an hour. From a timetabling perspective, that's had no impact because trains are usually slowing to stop anyway. So that's really good. And then we've been able to also look at closures of crossings too. So we've worked with local farmers and also the Natural England to close some crossings as well, which has been really good. So 3 of the crossings, Solomon's 2, 3 and 4, they're in the vicinity of the passing loop. So we couldn't legally have at least 2 of those 3 crossings because they were actually over Goss Moor passing loop. So we've been able to work with them to close it, and then we were able to enhance one of their other crossings as part of that, as a bit of a trade-off, which was really good. And then we've removed a couple of crossings from scope, and that's just basically because it was, again, there was no real safety justification to do them in the end, and also that the usage was very low. So a lot of work, very multidisciplined, this scheme. but really, really good. And again, it's all enhancing, being able to provide a sort of an uplift in service and improve safety is fantastic. Next slide, please.
Yes, this is a bit of a slide here around the kind of challenges we faced across the project, because it's as you might imagine, not entirely straightforward. So the first four are sort of my challenges that I've highlighted around public realm and the first and last mile improvements for walking and cycling. As I said before, some of those are around we have to lose some on-street parking spaces outside some businesses at the at Newquay station. So from our perspective, the key challenges have really been about very vocal opposition to those changes and the sort of public perception of the need to have free car parking, otherwise businesses will fail. So we had a lot of opposition on that basis, and perception from the businesses that actually that loss of car parking would have a really negative impact on their businesses. So despite the fact that actually we're providing increased car parking capacity locally, and also better improvement to the improvement of the public realm, at new walking and cycling routes and more frequent train services, the businesses felt that they were going to be negatively impacted, and we had to commission a rather expensive business impact survey to disprove that. So yeah, parking has been a real key issue for us. And then sort of one of the practical challenges that we've come across more lately is utilities along the route, which aren't quite where they are supposed to be on all the plans, and the GPR surveys weren't quite coinciding with the plans as well. So actually what I've had to do is go out and dig 63 quite large trial pits in the area to find exactly where the utilities are and adjust the design if need be. So yes, plenty of challenges along the way.
And then in terms of sort of the railway side of things, as I said, the retaining wall, that was the biggest challenge back in 2024. And it's really just the size that we didn't really know the size of the problem until we sort of dug down and did a lot of those surveys. It was more, when I say the size of the problem, it's more of a cost perspective. Like, we're trying to manage public money here with Cornwall Council. We're trying, and this was right at the start of the project. And if you've got a big risk and a big cost right at the start of the project, if there's any other challenges as well as you go down, you know, we want to manage our public funding as best as possible, and also not cause too many issues in that respect. So it was really that was one of our biggest ones, and thankfully actually didn't materialize as much of a big risk, which in the end, which was great. And then I think sort of, like Adrian said, our working with the general public is always a challenge, isn't it? Because it's change, but quite rightly we want to make sure that we satisfy them, and that leads me in sort of working with our private users, and actually sort of getting those agreements in place to close the crossings. We're sort of held to ransom a little bit when we are working with private users, because we have to negotiate with them on a cost perspective. We're lucky though that one of them, we've already closed crossings with them back sort of 10-20 years, so we sort of know roughly what the cost could potentially be now. And also with Natural England has been the other, we were doing improvements there, and they're also a public body basically, so we were quite lucky working with them in that respect. And then when we actually went out with public consultation as well regarding the closure of Train Creek and Chapel crossings, so stopping up the highway, I think because of the good work that Cornwall Council put in, especially, they did a lot of leading on that sort of consultation, and then we sort of dovetailed on that and did a great bit of work when we were just sort of talking about it, and it's been on the cards for years. So I think when people heard it was coming, they were quite pleased, because then it stopped the rat runs, and it stopped the rat runs, made it quieter for them, and we actually went out and talked to local people sometimes, so that was really, really good. And then obviously with any signalling scheme, integration is a big challenge. We had modern Frauscher signalling as part of this, so Colas delivered it on for us as our contractor, and just integrating that with mechanical semaphore signalling has been a challenge. We've had some elements that we still need to sort of rectify, which is understandable, but yeah, it's been a really big challenge for us. Like you say branch line, you think it's only going to be minor, but no, it is a really big, sort of job for what we've had to deliver as part of this. And I think that really sums us up, really, doesn't it, Adrian? And
Does, yeah.
Hand back over to you, Joanne.
Well, thank you very much, Adrian and Alexander, for the excellent presentation. So to start off with the Q&A, I wanted to ask is that what drives when the train services can run? Because I was thinking that if you had opened the infrastructure for November of last year, couldn't you have brought in the new trains with the December timetable change?
Yeah, so basically, GWR are waiting on sort of rolling stock. They have been waiting on rolling stock basically. So they had to send off lease their old HSTs at the time, and they didn't have enough rolling stock to run the Cornwall Metro service. So they've had to wait for what they call Class 175s. These newer trains from Transport for Wales, and they were basically cascaded from Wales to Exeter, which will then subsequently cascade trains down into Cornwall. So there's a lot of driver training going on. There was a lot of work needed actually to that rolling stock as well, and it pushed sort of the date back too. So it felt like it was probably best to wait until sort of spring this year for us to actually implement the timetable too. And it also sort of made sense really. You're right up against the summer. It's the best time to sort of introduce that new service as well. So yeah, it's all basically been driven in the end by rolling stock. We were a bit of chicken and egg really, or chasing each other. Like, would it be signalling? Would it be the rolling stock in the end? And it was just the rolling stock in the end, where we've just been waiting for that to arrive. But GWR have worked really hard to try and secure that and to try and get it up as running as quickly as they could for the new service.
Thank you, Alexander. I have two questions on the Q&A panel from the same user. First one is, does the tap and go ticketing extend to local buses as well as trains?
So not currently, but there are plans to do that. So the local tap in, tap out, they had done it from Penzance all the way to Par originally. So it's like West Cornwall. They've now done it to East Cornwall, so you can travel anywhere in Cornwall with a GWR tap in, tap out card. They're seeing how that goes, and then the plan is to be a bit like bit like London really, where you use your credit card, your debit card, and just tap in your smartphone. That's the plan. So it's sort of step-by-step process really, trying to get it all working, getting all the tariffs and the ticket fares aligned as well, so then it will be used like that eventually. Absolutely.
And the second question is there any thought of extending the line to Fowey?
To Foy. There's currently no strategic plans that I'm aware of to extend the line to Foy, but I believe it could feature in Cornwall Council's sort of long-term plans, long-term aspirations. I know it's not a priority at the moment. I know there's a freight line that is open down to Calm Point, and I appreciate that. That would be a beautiful journey if that was ever to happen. But no, there's currently no plans, no priorities. But obviously, if a lot of things change, our leisure markets are always changing, and it's something that we keep on revisiting over a 5-year period, and even less sort of what are the key priorities in Cornwall. And Foy quite rightly may pop up in the next sort of few years. I know it was on the list of restoring your railway bids previously. But yeah, you never know. You never know when it may pop up at some point as a priority.
Question from Wendy Goff, who says, thanks for the presentation. Really interesting. Will there be any similar rail opportunities in the future in this region?
So I think, yeah, absolutely. Where we sort of been looking at in the past, we've working with really Cornwall Council. They've had a great approach where they've homed in on, first of all, the St Ives branch line, sort out the timetable so it's every half hour. Then they worked to the Falmouth branch line back in 2009, where it was a train every hour to train every 2 trains an hour. They've been able to work with GWR to make it basically an hourly timetable on the Loo branch line. The Newquay branch line was the last one, and in terms of long-term plans, they're sort of looking at what they call sort of the Plymouth Metro area now. And I say Plymouth Metro, and that does include Cornwall in the sense that it's about accessing people from sort of the Liscard area and sort of mid Cornwall, that accessing jobs in Plymouth much more easily. There's been discussions around maybe an A38 park and ride, nothing in set in stone, but something along those lines. And the A38 runs from Bodmin through Liscard onto Plymouth. There's always discussions around sort of reopening the Tavistock branch line as well. Again, I'm not sure. I don't think there's anything there currently, but yeah, there's always sort of plans afoot, I would say, or at least conversations ongoing. Sort of what could happen in the next sort of 10, 20, 30 years.
And from memory, for the Falmouth branch line, I think it was being run with using 2-car trains.
Yeah.
And what's the intention? Is it still going to be 2-car trains with this coast-to-coast service?
Yeah, currently it's going to be 2-car trains, absolutely. So GWR will have the flexibility of 3-car trains. They've got their sort of class, what they call the Class 175s, that will be operating between Plymouth and Penzance. It may be that one of them goes to Newquay, for example. We've had 3-car trains on the Falmouth branch line in the past, but predominantly it will be a 2-car service. But as I said, the rolling stock is probably going to, well, it will be replaced in the next sort of 5 to 10 years because it's 40 years old. So we don't know what that rolling stock looks like, what that rolling stock could look like yet. There's some new variants of rolling stock in South Wales and also Anglia that it could sort of be a bit like, which means that it may be longer than the 2-car trains that we currently see today.
New comment. So someone says, many thanks for an interesting presentation on a much needed transport improvement. And I was thinking about this, that there was some real enthusiast talking about a second passing loop on the Falmouth branch line. Is that something feasible or something on the cards?
A second passing loop. Do you know whereabouts that was, or?
It was just more the idea that if it's currently every half an hour, and if you want to increase capacity, you will need a second passing loop.
Yeah.
I think there was no talk about where it was exactly, but the idea being if we want to have a 20-minute service instead.
Yeah, you definitely need to have additional infrastructure like a new passing loop, basically, because Penryn is obviously where it is currently. It's not rough. It's not really halfway through, but it allows for that 2 trains an hour. I believe that when they've looked at it in the past, you'd need a new passing loop sort of in between Penryn and Truro. I can't remember if there was any sort of discussion around what infrastructure would be needed on the Falmouth end. But yeah, you would definitely need additional infrastructure like a new passing loop, a dynamic passing loop maybe, for 3 trains per hour.
And I think without any further questions from the audience or from myself, I think that should bring our presentation to an end. Thank you both very much for presenting again. Thank you all for attending this event. And as I said earlier, this is being recorded and I will upload it onto the RCEA YouTube channel, and then the link will be made available to all of you afterwards. So thank you very much and have a good evening.
Thanks all.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye.